Hi, good morning here from Manhattan Beach, California. I'm so happy to have our guest here. I'm Valerie Milano, the senior editor of the Hollywood Times and with Aspiring Magazine. I'm going to have her introduce herself. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, yeah, my pleasure. So I'm Jane Clark. I'm the writer, director, and producer and editor and blah of Witchy Ways, which is my new film that's coming out. It's actually out right now on Apple and Amazon to buy or rent, and then it's going to come to streaming somewhere sometime. Yeah, it's very exciting.
Yes, I one of the lucky ones that's been able to see it. Thank you, Jane, and congratulations on the release of Witchy Ways. This film is such a perfect Halloween treat. Can you start by telling us what initially inspired you to merge queer romance with supernatural witchcraft?
Well, it's interesting. I have Miriam Hassler, who plays the witch, Danny, in the movie. She's a really good friend of mine, and we were out having a cocktail, and she doesn't live here all the time now anymore. So we were catching up, and she said, "I bought a camera. I have a Red. I've got this great DP. I've got this great producer. Let's make a movie." And I was like, okay, shoot, now I got to write something. I don't know what to write. And I was really digging Discovery of Witches at the time. I had just like watched every single episode in about 2 weeks. And so I had witches on my brain. I love everything with witches in it. I just have always have. And, I make primarily queer content anyway. So that was kind of a natural thing. And I thought I was going to do something dark, like, oh, this couple, and one of them was going to be pregnant, and they're going to move into this house, and this nasty witch next door where they don't know she's a witch, but she's going to like put a curse on them. And Guinevere Turner was going to play that role. And like I had all this, I had all this planned, but then I wrote this script and I didn't like it. And I was like, this isn't really what I want to do. I'm forcing an idea. So I just went back and started watching everything I could find with a ghost. And then I went back and watched everything I could find with a witch. And I ended up in the late 90s series of movies like Hocus Pocus and The Craft and all that. And I watched Practical Magic, and I remembered how much I loved that movie. And I just loved the tone of it, and I loved the spirit between the two women, the love between the two women. And even though in that movie they're sisters, it's just about a bond. And so that was where the genesis of it started. And then I started researching witches. And mostly because I was like, how do I write a spell? I don't know how to write a spell. Let me go see if I can find a spell. And then I found like lots of spells, and I was like, wow, what is going on here? And then I started really researching it and discovering that there was this whole community of people, and they were living their lives, but in a lot of ways, very much in the closet. A friend of mine likes to call it the broom closet. Um,
Love it.
so I thought, I mean, there's parallels here to the LGBTQ community. There's this rich community of human beings that believe in some really gorgeous things. And I felt like I could support that. And it gave me a really strong focus on the character of the witch. Like it gave me a very clear trajectory with her, who she was, how I could build on her. And then Maram's mother is a psychic, and she grew up with tarot cards and doing a little of psych. Her mom wanted her to get into it, but I think she just it wasn't for her, and she was young. But she became my kind of like touchstone. I'd send her something, go, does this make sense? Is this how we should be doing the tarot when we lay it out? Like, just touching in with her. And I don't know, then it all just started organically growing.
Yeah, well, the film really embraces the idea that magic lives in authenticity and love. How important was it for you to connect witchcraft as a metaphor for queer visibility and belonging?
Well, I thought it had sort of, because I was so startled with the size of the community, which community that I was uncovering for myself. Um, the parallels became very just obvious, and it almost became, it just wasn't hard to incorporate because it just was, it is the truth. Like you're saying, the authenticity. there's an authenticity to this community and the reality that they live a lot of their time not letting people in their sphere know that they're a witch, in for various reasons. And there are still people in our, even in with our current, situation. I shouldn't even say even in, but in the United States, there's still a lot of people afraid to be in their community and be out. And so just the parallels were so clear, and I thought it was an opportunity to speak to both at the same time without lecturing. Because I don't want to do that. I mean, this is a fun movie, you know.
Yes.
I want people to go, and I want everybody to watch it, and I want them to walk away believing in love
Yeah.
and hopefully having an open heart for people that are different than them.
Speaking of believing in love, the relationship between Eve and Danny feels both magical and grounded. How did you approach balancing the romance with the supernatural elements without losing the emotional truth?
Yeah, it was that part probably was the most tricky part for me
Mhm.
for the story because both things are could have been on their own. The love story could have been a love story on its own and been fleshed out more, and you would have had a longer trajectory and you would have seen the bits in between, and the magical supernatural part could also have been on its own. But I just sort of I work very I just let it flow out of me. I don't know how to describe it. So I just did as much research as I could. I figured where I wanted to go. I love rom-coms. So I'm like, I've seen every single rom-com ever made. I mean, I don't, maybe a lot of people don't know that about me, but I love rom-coms. So I had that already, like that energy accessible to me.
Mhm.
And I just started writing. And then I found later, and so there were questions of how far I wanted to go with the supernatural and how far I wanted to go with the magical part and what was going to be seen and what was going to be just sort of intuited. And I found myself building on that after I finished after I finished making the movie and I was in the edit. I started expanding the magical part because I had pulled back to make sure that the love resonated. And once I got into the edit, I realized that actually I could balance these two things and then they could be one and the same. By
Interesting.
the end of the movie, the magic is wrapped up in the love. Because if you think about it, magic is love. I mean, it's something so untangible. You can't really put your finger on why you're feeling what you're feeling for this other person. It just is, and belief in magic is the same. You might not know how it happens, but it happens. And the two things I think are you can't have love without some magic, and you can't really have magic without a little bit of love. I see them intertwined. So yeah, it was a build. And then I got lucky enough to I got a visual effects guy late in the game after a lot of stuff had happened. And he was like, well, I can do this. I can do this. And I was like, okay, because my budget didn't necessarily support it. But he was really in love with the movie and he was like, I just want to make this as great as I can make it for you. What do you really want? Like, don't hold back. And so I didn't go to crazy with it, but given the opportunity to expand out from where I thought I could go, I took it.
Good.
Yeah. So it was like it was a little bit of a wrapping around this way to come back around this way. Yeah.
Yeah. You talked a little bit about it earlier, casting and collaboration. The casting feels spot on. Diora Baird and Miriam Hassler, and nice to see Candace Kane again. They bring such star power and heart. Can you talk about how this ensemble came together and why each of them was the right fit?
Yeah, it was interesting because I originally wrote the role of Eve for Maram,
Ah,
because I wanted her to have the starring role, and that's the bigger role by the number of days worked and the number of scenes and everything. And we had a witch, an actress who has a pretty big name, who is also a witch, who really wanted to play the witch. And so I was like, great, that's fantastic. I was working with her on another project. I brought her in. And then we were about 3 weeks out and I was trying to get the contract signed. And in the end, they ended up dropping out because she got a big movie with real money and she has a kid to support. Like, I'm not. going to get in the way of that. But I was sitting there with now this empty role, and Miriam said, Jane, why don't I just take the witch? And then we both sort of looked at each other like, what? Wait a minute. You are the witch. Like I was writing for you all along. It was crazy how that happened. And then, so then I did this search that I always do, which is, lesbian actresses with a name, sort of, just to see who's out there. And I always usually get the same list pop up. And then this time Diora came on and I'd never seen her before, but there was this gorgeous blonde-haired, green-eyed woman. I was like, I can't visually see anybody now except her in this role. And then I didn't audition her. I didn't even go look at her work on film because it was all real serious stuff. And I knew it wasn't going to tell me what I needed to know. So I went to her Instagram page and there was this little Instagram video that she'd done that was just so goofy. It was the heart. Like I was like, okay, this is who she is, and this is what I want. And I know she can do the, sadder stuff and the more poignant stuff. She can, I know she's done it before, but I need this rom-com feel, this lighter edge. And then we talked on the phone, and after I talked to her, I was just like, okay, you are it, and now you better say yes because I don't know who else I'm gonna get that equals you. So she was like it was like a fantastic, like kind of accident how it happened. And then with Candace Kane, she's a friend like Maram, and I wrote the role for her. I love her as an actress. I think she brings such heart to everything she does. And we've worked together two other times now. This is our third movie together, and I just knew what she could bring, and I thought, if you're thinking about a best friend, I mean, really, if you could have Candace Kane as your best friend, you'd have like the absolute perfect
Right.
person. She's in her real life just that kind of lovely, grounded, honest person. So anyway, that's how that all came together. And do you have a second? Because I have an interesting
Yes.
story for you.
Love that. Please.
I had gotten in touch with a friend of mine who turns out is a witch, and she reads tarot. And she said, "Hey, Jane, why don't I read the tarot on the script?" And I didn't even know you could do that. So I'm like, "Sure, let's give it a go." And as she was shuffling, she dropped a couple cards, and she laid them out, and it was a queen of shoot, I don't remember what they, but they're two queens. They were two queens. One was um, of some mixed race, and one was very pale. And the pale blonde-haired witch was bent over a pool of water. And she said, "This witch is powerful, but she's in grief." And the dark-skinned woman was regal and sitting tall and really in her power in the image. She said, "This is your witch, and this is Eve." And I was like, because when she described it, it was right for the characters, but I was like, yeah, but no, because Miriam's playing Eve and she's half Trinidadian, and so like they got the Caucasian and you know I guess you can't say African American because she's not African American, but the Caucasian and black crossed.
Right.
But I was gonna go with the rest of it. I didn't think twice about it. And after the change of um, casting happened, I was like probably a couple months later, I was sitting there thinking about it and telling somebody that story, and I thought, oh my God, wait a minute. The cards were right. The cards were right before I even knew that was going to happen. I mean, it was really, really interesting, you know?
That's so
I don't
interesting.
know. I just thought that was like,
Love it. Yeah.
yeah, magic.
And we're seeing witch stories have a cultural moment again, like between Witchy Ways and even the buzz around practical magic, too.
Yeah.
Why do you think audiences are so drawn to witchcraft as a storytelling device right now? Do you have any idea?
Well, I'd like to say, I mean, I don't know how it breaks down by gender, but witches are badass. They're strong, they're, centered, they're ready to take over given the opportunity. And they're also very rooted to nature, animals. A lot of particularly green witches are vegan. Like, so they're very centered on our world and preserving our world as it is. That's a big, big part of it. And so I think these really strong women with these passionate issues are out there trying to get their voice heard. And a lot of us aren't given the opportunity to let that voice be heard. And more we're getting shut down, shut down, shut down. I think it's going to just cause everybody, a lot of women are just going to revolt. It's just, we're not going to sit for it anymore. I know I don't sit for it anymore. I just can't take the bullshit. I can't take being spoken to in certain ways. I can't take, the kind of passive aggressiveness you sometimes get. Like, I can't take any of it anymore. I'm just done. And I think a lot of women are out there are done, and witches are a great representation of taking the power back. I mean, practical magic, those women are, they, in the end, they won. They were powerful. I'm sure this one is going to be exactly the same. And they use their witchery for positive change, which is part of being a witch. You're out there to create positive change in the world. And I think there's a lot of people that want to do that too. So hopefully that's what's tying people to it. I mean, Wednesday couldn't, she's learning a lot. She's spoiled as all hell, but she's also, she's very, um, set in doing the right thing and having justice. So I don't know. I think that there's something wrapped up in that. Badass women looking to have a voice.
Yep. And I have to ask about the music. Our friend Jennifer Corday and actually Sean Wiggins as well
Yeah.
contributed to this project. How did the work help set the tone for the film? And what did it mean to collaborate with her and them on the soundtracks?
Well, it was really fun. Corday and I also go way back, and she's music supervised everything I've done from Elaine Undone on. And so we are friends. We love each other. We go for drinks together. So there was already a bond. So the communication was really easy. And it's the first time I've asked her to write something for a movie. But I was like, listen, I want something special for this, and I know you're the woman for it. Let's sit down and talk about it. So I sent her just some ideas like think about this, think about this. This is what the movie should the movie feels like, so the music should represent that. And I gave her some buzzwords and stuff, and then Jen went off and of course did her little everything she does. And then, it was fun because I mean, she came back with a really tight, cool song, and then I just was like, can I have a little bit of this here? Can you maybe do this over here? And she'd send things back to me, and then at some point, she's like, I was like, I don't know if I like the drums. She's like, I don't like the drum. The drums aren't real. I need real drums. And so she went and got a drummer after the fact and like had the real drums laid in, which is so Jen. So it was really fun. I had a good time. I think she had a good time doing it. And then Sean Wiggins, interestingly, came through. Jen Jen sent me her stuff, but I had been to a party at her house through another friend like the year before. And I was like, is this the same person? It was a real intimate party, and we had a good chance to talk a little bit. And she's really good friends with this other friend. And I emailed Betsy, and she's like, yeah, that's the same Sean. I'm like, oh shit. And the music is so good. I love her song. And I was looking for something for that segment, and I had asked my composer to write something, and he's like, "No, Jane, you need a real song." And I was like, yeah, I don't know. I can't find anything. You need a real song. And then I hear Sean's song, and I was like, I can't think of anything better. And it fit without cutting, fit perfectly
Great.
into what I had already edited. And here's the other piece of serendipity. I'm in my with my sound guy doing the sound edit. And he goes, Sean Wiggins, I work with her wife all the time. I've known her for years. I
Wow.
mean, Witchy Ways had a lot of that serendipity happening all the way through. A lot of these like links to links to links to links. It was really interesting.
You know, your filmmaking voice, speaking of Elena Undone, your films Crazy Bitches, Meth Head, Elena Undone, and now Witchy Ways, they all highlight identity, community, and emotional honesty. How do you see your evolution as a filmmaker with this latest project?
Well, I'll say that Witchy Ways is the biggest thing I've ever done in terms of elements. Um, it had, the special effects. the music was more complex. It's very interesting when you think about the composed music. They were having to ride the line between the rom-com feel, because I didn't want to lose that sort of love and energy, with the sort of witchy supernatural.
Hmm.
And um, so, getting that where it needed to be, these composers are brilliant, Charlton Pettis and Doug Petty, and they actually play in a band. They're in Tears for Fears,
Hmm.
but they decided to work on this together. Charlton's an old composer and friend of mine, but it was complex. It was more detailed. The visual effects were a lot more than I'd ever handled before. The color work was more complex. Some of that because, you're making a film in 13 days, you're going to get, you know, lighting is going to be a little uneven. And some of it was just because I wanted very, very specific feelings out of each scene, and just sort of required a little more than I normally do. um so things like that made it a little more complicated than it has been in the past, and that makes me grow as a filmmaker. My next film is even more complicated, and the one after that's even more complicated. And so I saw it as a good start, especially with visual effects, because the next one's going to have a lot of it. This was a great baby step to know what I could accomplish in the next film. I see every single film I do as a gift of an education, so that I build on it and I become better at what I do. I think Witchy Ways is really the best thing I've ever done. Um, I love Crazy Bitches. I mean, you can go and have a blast watching that. And Meth Head was very dear to my heart because the story is based on true stories of people in my life. So I have a very intimate and heart connection to that. And Elena was a gift from Nicole Kahn and Marina
Hmm.
Rice Bader because they asked me to come on at the very beginning to help nurture the script. I mean, they hadn't even written anything yet. So I was on from the beginning, and then, to be able to take it through all the way through the edit with them, that was a gift that they gave me before I went and produced my own film that I was editing. I mean, that I was directing. So everything has been that step, and even my short films have been steps toward what I'm doing now. So I look at everything as a gift, but I believe that this one is next level in terms of my ability as a filmmaker. Um,
Great.
yeah, I love it.
So, in closing, for viewers who are about to rent or buy Witchy Ways on Wolf, Wolf Video or Apple TV, Amazon Prime, and Fandango, what do you hope they walk away with after the credits roll?
I hope they walk away with, first and foremost, just a belief in the possibility of love. I mean, just like let that journey between these women be an inspiration or a reinforcement of the love you're already experiencing, or an inspiration to go find or believe in the possibility of what's out there for you. It's just it feels so good. I mean, I feel that part of it feels so good. But also walk away believing in magic a little bit. I mean, the world is filled with magic. You can walk outside. If you see a flower and it's just starting to bloom, I mean, there's magic happening in those moments. Like, so, find the magic. If you find the magic, you might find the love.
That's beautiful. Thank
Yeah.
you so much.
Yeah, thank
Jane,
you.
how can our readers and our viewers find out more about you and about Witchy Ways, social media or
Yeah.
website? What?
Yeah, there's a website, witchywaysmovie.com. And then there's also a Witchy Ways movie TikTok, Instagram, and then on YouTube I have it under my company, which is Film McQueen. But there's lots of little clips out there. If people are curious before they go, want to see something before they go buy, go check out any of those platforms, and you can see there's lots of little clips, little shorts out there that give you the flavor of, I think, a nice cross section of what the film is all about. And yeah, and the trailer on Wolf, you can go there too. Wolf. I think it's their Wolf trailer trail. I should look that up. But anyway, Wolf trailers. You can find it on YouTube. And yeah, I mean, come find us. Come watch
Yeah.
the movie. Yay.
We'll put it all in the article, and we're the HollywoodTimes.today, aspiringmagazine.com. Our YouTube channel is the Hollywood Times Official. So nice to meet you finally, at least virtually. I
I
am
know,
sure
likewise.
that we'll meet each other in person one day.
I would love that.
Thank you for your creativity, and I can't wait to see more, Jane.
Thank you. Me too.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right, have a great rest of your day.
Thanks.
Bye-bye.